Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone, I'm coming to you live once again from the freezing cold Arctic tundra of Siberia, and I've got behind me the new Jimmy Olsen. As you can see, Mehcad Brooks has been cast on the new Supergirl television show to play our golly gee whiz, bow tie wearing, camera toting, reporter cub type of guy, although he doesn't really look like a cub reporter, for the world's greatest newspaper, although somehow he's going to be involved with Supergirl. Now I hear people saying, why is Jimmy Olsen on this show? Jimmy Olsen is Superman's greatest pal. He shouldn't be involved with Supergirl, and since we're not really sure what Superman's role will be on the Supergirl show, how come Jimmy Olsen's going to clearly be spending more time with Supergirl? Well, in the history of Supergirl and in the history of Jimmy Olsen, there have been times where the two have been romantically entangled, probably the most famous of which, or at least well known to the general public, maybe 20 years ago, was the Helen Slater Supergirl movie, where Jimmy Olsen from the Christopher Reeve movies appeared and was Supergirl's boyfriend. And that has been done in the comics before, so it's not all that odd. And they are trying to populate Supergirl's world on the show with known characters from the Superman and Supergirl universe. We've also heard about Hank Henshaw, the scientist, astronaut who goes up with his family in the old Superman comics of the 90s during the Death of Superman saga, who wasn't saved by Superman or something along those lines and ends up becoming Cyborg Superman. Now, in the New 52, Hank Henshaw hasn't been introduced and is not the Cyborg Superman that we know in the New 52 continuity. It is instead Supergirl's father, which is weird that they're going back to Hank Henshaw on the show when it's a show about Supergirl, and that seems to be a plot line that might be an interesting one for the Girl of Steel, or the Maid of Might, or whatever they want to try and call her. Now, we haven't seen a costume for Supergirl yet, but we have heard the producers talking about how cool it is, how it's a girl empowerment show, how it's going to be a strong female-driven show, which is great. We don't have a lot of that on TV, although it's becoming more and more. And now we have a minority actor cast as Jimmy Olsen. Now, this is, again, stirring up stuff the same way that it stirred up back when Perry White, Lawrence Fishburne, was cast to play that character. My feelings on this are wholly the same as they were during the Man of Steel casting phase, and that is that I wish that they would just either create or use already made Black, Asian, whatever minority that you choose characters, instead of taking well-known characters that are traditionally of a different race and then recasting them in those roles instead of casting them in these roles that we all know Jimmy Olsen is this young cub reporter type with red hair and freckles, and clearly that's not that. It doesn't matter, no. Jimmy Olsen could be anyone, but in the past and all the way up till now, we know who Jimmy Olsen has been, and this actor doesn't fit that profile. I don't mind him being on the show. I think he'll probably be fine. On these superhero shows, the acting isn't really anything to write home about most of the time, with the exception of maybe Stephen Amell, and at this point a little bit Brandon Routh, because he's a movie actor and he's been acting, and I think he's very good in the role that they have him in, even though that's not really Ray Palmer on Arrow. He's playing Ray Palmer, but that's not really any rendition of the character I've ever seen. I like Brandon Routh in the role, and I like Stephen Amell, and I have been moved by some of his speeches and some of his performance on the show. So you have a couple of choices, and I thought in general the people on Smallville were all cast really well. Occasionally you get a Michael Rosenbaum, you get a John Glover, who are just fantastic in their roles on these shows. John Snyder and Annette O'Toole were all good, but you look at these shows, The Flash now, and Gotham, and a lot of the supporting cast and a lot of the guest stars, the ones that come in to be a villain or a nurse or a cop, are not particularly great actors. And so I don't think the acting necessarily matters. My bet is, and I've said this and I've gotten told that I'm just being negative, my guess is, which must have happened with Johnny Storm and Annie, and now they're talking about James Bond and Perry White and Jimmy Olsen here, is that they went in with a decree. We're going to cast a minority in this role, probably a black person, because we want to populate the world, make it look more true to what the world is, and that, of course, depends on where you are. But it doesn't matter. You can have anybody in any area. The question is, should we and did we have to cast a black actor to play wide-eyed, golly gee whiz, red-haired, freckled Jimmy Olsen? And I don't think we did, but I think they went in with that decree. Same with Johnny Storm. We need to make these superhero movies and these superhero TV shows more diverse. We need to show that we're not against casting off type. We need to show that we're advanced. We need to show that we're ahead of the times, even though we're all way behind the times in general. It's okay to cast black actors, Asian actors, white actors, any kind of actors you want in any show you want. What's a little off-putting to people is casting them in roles that everyone on the planet knows as not being that type. Generally, when a casting call goes out, this is not against any race or any creed. This is they go for a type. You know, if they're looking for Superman, they're looking for kind of an all-American, slightly hunky-looking, dark-haired, blue-eyed, although they can cast him without the blue eyes, but generally they're not going to go for an overweight, slovenly woman or something to play Superman. It's just not the way they normally do it. Now, they are expanding that, clearly, and it's a positive thing in that there are going to be more major characters played by black actors, hopefully Asian actors, hopefully Spanish actors. It's been a problem for a long time, but I don't know that going in with a decree that this is what we're going to do, as opposed to going in and saying, we're just going to take the best actor no matter what. I don't feel like that's what's happening, because then you get people like Sam Jones III, who in my mind couldn't have been the best actor for that role. And he grew on me, and it was fine in the role, and, you know, it was okay. But Pete Ross also wasn't black, and I think they just went against type on purpose. Same with Lana Lang. A redheaded, you know, white girl ends up being an Asian girl. And they're doing it to make TV more diverse and give people more opportunity. And I understand all of that. And but I also understand people saying, why are they changing who Jimmy Olsen is? And that's kind of what they're doing. And I think they're doing it just to do it because they can and because they think it's something they need to show they can do. But I'm still looking forward to the show. I think Mr. Brooks will be fine. I just don't know that we need to force cast people. There are other roles, there are other characters, and you could have written Supergirl's new boyfriend to be this guy without it having to be Jimmy Olsen, and it would have been perfectly fine. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and remember, always look up in the sky.